Manny Pacquiao's whirlwind journey has taken him from the shanty towns of the Philippines to international fame to a seat in his nation's Congress. And in the ring, his rise to the top of boxing's pyramid over the past decade has been historic.
Manny Pacquiao destroys the great Marco Antonio Barrera. Has knocked out Eric Morales. Pacquiao is annihilating Oscar De La Hoya. But it goes down again. That is the most spectacular one-punch shot of Manny Pacquiao's incredible career.
The Filipino icon looks to further solidify his status as an all-time great, gunning for a 5th consecutive victory against a demonstrably bigger man.
We thought Manny Pacquiao was great. He's better than we thought.
While Pacquiao campaigns for history, Antonio Margarito looks for redemption. Over a 16-year career, Margarito fought his way to a welterweight title and an identity as one of the most feared men in the sport.
That's the Antonio Margarito everybody was avoiding. And Antonio Margarito has the victory he's been waiting for all his life.
But in one night against Shane Mosley, his career and reputation were shattered.
Just minutes ago, an illegal pad was found in Margarito's gloves.
And Margarito looks like a beaten man. Shane Mosley has annihilated Antonio Margarito.
After a 1-year suspension for the hand wrap controversy, Margarito returned to the ring this year, and tonight looks to capitalize on this opportunity of a lifetime. Moments from now, deep in the heart of Texas, in the splendor of Cowboy Stadium, pound-for-pound king Manny Pacquiao and prodigal son Antonio Margarito face off. Will it be history or redemption? Pacquiao versus Margarito is next. The energy in Cowboy Stadium rises to a fever pitch as we are ready for Manny Pacquiao's next attempted step toward immortality versus his biggest opponent yet, Antonio Margarito. Pacquiao versus Margarito is being brought to you by Cowboy Stadium, Cerveza Tecate con Carácter, AT&T Viva Mexico plan. Make calls with your wireless phone to or from Mexico as if they were local calls. EA Sports Fight Night Champion, available March 1, 2011. The Gearheads are coming to history with Top Gear, premiering next Sunday, November 21. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. And now we are back live inside the boiling interior of Texas Stadium. Let's go to Michael Buffer to begin the pageantry.
Ladies and gentlemen, we respectfully ask you to please remain silent for 3 national anthems. First, the national anthem of Mexico, performed by Mexican recording star Yair.
Mexicanos al grito de guerra, el acero aprestad y el bridón, y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. Y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. Ciño patria, tus sienes de oliva, de la paz el arcángel divino, que en el cielo tu eterno destino por el dedo de Dios escribió. Mas si osare un extraño enemigo profanar con su planta tu suelo, pienso, patria querida, que el cielo un soldado en cada hijo te dio, un soldado en cada hijo te dio. Mexicanos al grito de guerra, el acero aprestad y el bridón, y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. Y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we respectfully ask to remain silent as Viva recording artist Zarina Prasad sings the Philippine national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig. Di ka pa sisiil sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw. May dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng wataw at mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwal, hatid pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mang-aapi ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's only fitting that here in Cowboys Stadium we have three members of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders to sing the national anthem. Please welcome Casey Trammell, Brittany Evan, and Sonny Granville as they honor America with dedication to the men and women serving in harm's way with the armed forces of the United States of America.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And now, let's get this party started! Presenting a three-time Grammy Award winner with 35 million albums sold. Ladies and gentlemen, his new CD in stores November 16th, titled 5.0. Here is a recording superstar with his new hit single, Just a Dream. He's an undisputed heavyweight king of music, Nelly!
Dallas, Texas! Yeah! Is you ready? Okay. I said, is you ready? Wait a minute now. Yo, can y'all hear us over there? What about Black John? Over there, let me hear it. Nelly. You are a sucker for cornrows and manicured toes. Fendi capri pants and parasuit clothes. Hasadini a city with 1 or 2 pros. I'm drafting them out of high school straight into the pros. Who knows? I love it when you make your knees touch your elbows and bring it down low to the floor. There you go. Now throw it on me slow, and every time I bust a rhyme, baby, give me some more. You say it like that. When I hit it from behind, and I'll be right back. That's my very next line. I use it time after time when I'm speaking my mind. It don't matter if I'm shooting game to a pitch in the dime. I ask you who that is talking that about the tick. Somebody probably jealous cause they but ain't nobody else dropping hits like this. Yo, should we apologize? Underlay, mommy, E-I. What's poppin' tonight? Yeah, underlay, mommy, E-I. If your head right, dirty there at night. Underlay, mommy, E-I. What's poppin' tonight? Hey, underlay, mommy, E-I. If the head right, dirty there at night. I want to thank everybody for allowing me to be in their house tonight, Dallas, Texas. And if you don't know, I was thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us, where we gon' be, hope in my eyes, yeah. So I traveled back down that road, when she come back, no one knows, I realize, yeah. Hey, I was at the top and I was like I'm in the basement. Number 1 spot, now she found a replacement. I swear, man, I can't take it, knowing somebody's got my baby. And now you ain't around, baby, I can't think. I should've put it down, should've got that ring, cause I can still feel her in the air. See her pretty face, run my fingers through her hair. My love, my life, my shorty, my wife. She left me, I'm tight, cause I knew that it just ain't right. I was thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us, where we gon' be, hope in my eyes, yeah. Yeah. So I traveled back down that road, when she come back, no one knows, I realize, yeah. Hey. When I be riding, man, I swear I see her face at every turn. Trying to get my usher on, but I can't let it burn. And I just hope she know that she the only one I yearn for. More and more I miss her, what will I learn? Didn't give her all my love, I guess now I got my payback. Now I'm in the club thinking all about my baby. Hey, she was so easy to love, but wait, I guess that love wasn't enough. I'm going through it every time that I'm alone, and now I'm wishing she'd pick up the phone. But she made a decision that she wanted to move on, cause I was wrong, and now I'm thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us, what we gon' be, hope in my eyes, yeah. Travel back down that road, when she come back, no one knows, I realize, yeah. I need you to do something for me. If you ever love somebody, put your hands up. If you ever love somebody, put your hands up. And now they gone and you wishing you could give them everything. Said if you ever love somebody, put your hands up. If you ever love somebody, put your hands up. Now they gone and you wishing you could give them everything. Hey, I was thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us. Where we gon' be? Open my eyes, yeah. Hey, I travel back down that road. Wish she'd come back. No one knows. I realize, yeah. Hey, I was thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us. Where we gon' be? Open my eyes, yeah. Hey, I travel back down that road. Wish she'd come back. No one knows. I realize, yeah. Hey, I was thinking about her, thinking about me, thinking about us. Where we gon' be? Open my eyes, yeah. Hey, so I travel back down that road. Wish she'd come back. No one knows. I realize, yeah. Thank you, Dallas, Texas.
Tail of the tape for Manny Pacquiao against Antonio Margarito. You see the 1-year age advantage for Pacquiao. 4.5 inches of height advantage for Margarito. Shockingly, only a ½ inch of arm length advantage when the arms are measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. Pacquiao has extraordinarily long arms for his height. Manny Pacquiao chose to come in light. Weighed in at 144.6 yesterday and has gone up only to 148 overnight. Antonio Margarito followed his plan. Starched himself to make 150, rehydrated up to 165 overnight. You see the number and the 17-pound functional weight advantage that Margarito will carry into the ring. Live at ringside and turning now to Emanuel Stewart. Emanuel, if you had been charged with the responsibility of training Antonio Margarito for the difficult task of fighting Manny Pacquiao tonight, what plan would you have given him?
To take advantage of that tremendous physical size that he has. He's not only taller, but much heavier. Put a lot of pressure on him. Tight defense and shoot punches up through the center. But he must put a lot of pressure. He cannot fight at a distance because Manny Pacquiao has great reflexes and one of the few boxers that I've saw in history that can get you in exchanges and knock you down because not only will he make you miss, but he lands punches as soon as he lets you miss.
Does Margarito have a chance? Pacquiao's a 5-1 favorite.
I think the odds should be a little closer to that, just merely on the fact that he's a big man. There's not 2 or 3 weight differences. I think that Pacquiao should be favored, but not by no 4 or 5. I think that Margarito does have a chance, yes.
All right. Max Kellerman, ever since the beginning of modern boxing, when John L. Sullivan said, I can lick any sumbitch alive, no sport has so succeeded in creating indelible cultural figures. From Jack Johnson and Jack Dempsey through Joe Louis to Muhammad Ali. And now Manny Pacquiao. How big is Manny Pacquiao?
Well, he's definitely the biggest flyweight ever. Pacquiao is so big, he's now drawn 2 huge crowds to Dallas Cowboys Stadium this year. And I've even noticed the writing about Pacquiao is excellent, the sports writing about him. He attracts, as a subject, good writers and forces the rest to raise their game. It's as though something so special demands more of those in its orbit. He's going to demand more than Margarito has shown in recent fights. But even if Margarito doesn't bring more, we're in for a showcase of one of the greatest fighters who's ever lived, and he still looks at this moment like he's in his prime. I just love watching Pacquiao fight.
And now let's get ready for both fighters to come into the arena, and we'll see them come in. First, Max, a look at the welterweight division picture where both Pacquiao and his missing foil, always discussed with him, Floyd Mayweather, ply their trade.
Yeah, there's no welterweight division, it's a neighborhood. People will fight where the money is. The money men in the division and in boxing are Mayweather and Pacquiao, the 2 best fighters in the sport. Then there's Miguel Cotto, who's still exciting. Shane Mosley, who still has a name. Margarito, you'll see tonight. And Andre Berto, who's very fast and undefeated, although most want to see him in with some stiffer competition soon.
Emanuel Stewart, this all began when Manny Pacquiao took what some thought was the whimsical challenge of Oscar De La Hoya and turned it into solid platinum by whipping De La Hoya the way he did. I think he's trapped himself now in the sense that I don't know if I'll ever see him fight another guy his size as long as he's fighting. He has treated the public to the notion that he can constantly beat bigger men. Logic says eventually you bite off more than you can chew.
That's very possible, especially when you realize that he really, to me, is nothing but an overstuffed lightweight. I mean, he walks around at 38. He's struggling to get up to 140, which means that he can actually go back to the 140-pound division where there's a lot of action in fight. But the idea of him fighting Sergio Martinez and Paul Williams and those type of guys, a little hard for me to factor. If he gets away with it tonight, I think he should stop there and start considering going back to fight a junior welterweight, which is what he really is.
Of course, the question still lingers out there. When does he fight Floyd Mayweather? Or, more recently, the new question which emerges is, will he ever fight Floyd Mayweather? Tonight, he fights this man, Antonio Margarito, coming off of 22 months of purgatory. And Max Kellerman, one reason why Manny Pacquiao is such a heavy favorite tonight is that when Margarito returned to the ring after his one-year suspension against a fighter oddly named Robert Garcia, the same name as his trainer in Mexico, he did not look very good en route to a 10-round decision.
No, ever since he was caught with the loaded hand wraps, he hasn't looked good. He was brutally knocked out by Shane Mosley. He looked mediocre against Garcia, especially for a guy who was once on top of the world. And now we have him in against Manny Pacquiao, one of the very greatest fighters who's ever lived.
And of course, another outgrowth of the hand wrap controversy, Emanuel, is that he fights a second fight with the relatively inexperienced Robert Garcia instead of his previous trainer with whom he had been through most of his career, Javier Capetillo. So that's yet another adjustment for him.
I think it's a big adjustment, especially when you consider the fact that there's so much drama has been going on in this fight related to illegal things, with the comments that they made rated at Freddie Roach. So he may not be the type of a guy that can handle all of this drama that's going on, changing of trainers. Whereas Manny Pacquiao is one of those unusual guys, much like Mike Tyson, seems to thrive on excitement, doing multiple things at the same time. Tonight we will find out.
Of course, Margarito's biggest victory came against Miguel Cotto, July 25, 2008. Cotto's here tonight at ringside. For his part, Max Kellerman, Miguel Cotto has never once publicly stated unequivocally that he thinks he was beaten by a loaded glove fighter. But the skepticism about Margarito is so big that most ringsiders take it as unproven truth.
And this is why it's Margarito's fight for redemption, because he doesn't even have to win tonight, even with the size advantage. He just has to fight well enough to indicate to most people that he is a world-class fighter without loaded wraps. That might shed new light on some of the victories pre-Mosley.
Up the steps and into the ring. Antonio Margarito, to the surprise of some and the consternation of others, unexpectedly returns to the upper summit of the sport. Tonight, as the opponent for Manny Pacquiao, and in the eyes of many, filling in for the fighter who still is not here yet to fight Pacquiao, and may be at some point in the future. You know about the giant screen overhead here in Cowboys Stadium. The picture appeared, you heard the roar, and Emanuel Stewart, it's inevitable that the world appreciation, the global thunder of applause for Manny Pacquiao lifts the spirits of the fighter higher and higher and gives him greater and greater confidence.
That is true. And, in particular, this guy, he seems to love going to his job. He's the guy that thrives on the crowd's excitement. And he's still, I would say, the most exciting fighter that I've saw come along probably in many years since Mike Tyson. But what I admire about him more than any of the fighters, not even the most, he fights the best. And we've been watching and covering him for nearly 6 years. and he's only lost one fight, and that was a great fight with Eric Morales, who he knocked out twice. And he fought the best in every division that's been available for him, and always has been given an exciting performance.
His 12-fight winning streak, and on the screen they're showing his conquest of Miguel Cotto and Ricky Hatton. But the 12-fight win streak, Max Kellerman, a lot of people forget, includes a close win over Juan Manuel Marquez to go with an earlier draw with Marquez. So somewhere out there, Marquez is still thinking, I'm the better fighter.
No matter how great a fighter and how great his resume, the way a guy looks as good as Pacquiao is always the result of good matchmaking. Not to diminish Pacquiao's accomplishments, but he's been matched very well against big, but usually aging or faded fighters. The last time he fought a great fighter in or around that fighter's prime was Juan Manuel Marquez. Either fight could have gone either way. Jim, that said, he's annihilated divisions between flyweight and welterweight. It's 10 divisions in the modern era. Even by old school standards, he's the only fighter in the history of boxing to win the lineal title in 4 different weight divisions.
Somewhere to the right of me in this sea of humanity, there's a huge banner that says, Manny Pacquiao for president. The question you would ask is, what country? And the answer might be, any country he wants. Let's go to Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the 8th wonder of the world of sports and entertainment, Mr. Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, Arlington, Texas, USA. Bob Arams, Top Rank Boxing, and MP Promotions are proud to present the main event of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the vacant WBC Super Welterweight Championship of the World. Sponsored by Tecate, Cerveza con Carácter, AT&T, Viva Mexico Plan. Make calls from your wireless phone as if they were local calls. EA Sports Fight Night Champion, available March 1st. Smart Communications, the Philippines' largest mobile company, and Top Gear on the History Channel. The Gearheads are coming to history with Top Gear. Premieres next Sunday, November 21st. And now, here are your 3 judges at ringside. Scoring the bout, Glenn Crocker, Jurgen Lagos, and Oren Schellenberger. This contest sanctioned by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation.